Our opponents argue that animal testing is justified because it has led to many life-saving cures and treatments. It is true that many advances did result from this, but there is no evidence that animal research was essential to making any of these discoveries. We now have the scientific ability to use alternative testing methods that are more cost-effective and more accurate than animal tests, and do not require the sacrifices of innocent creatures. If you wanted to talk to your friend who wasn't with you, would you grab your telegraph and send them a Morse code message? More likely, you would just pick up your phone and text them. Just like a telegraph, lots of things can become outdated as we develop better technology. Simply because something was once of great use to us does not mean that it's the best option now. As technology advances, we need to advance with it. Our opponents have also said that there are animal testings that benefit the animals themselves. While this is very true, there are still flaws during these tests. Mr. Shane Hammond told us his story about his experience testing on cats in an attempt to develop a feline leukemia vaccination. They took several hundred live cats and gave half of them a vaccination, while the other half did not receive anything. A couple weeks later, they then injected all of the fat cats with feline leukemia. The cats that did not have the vaccination got sick and died, while the cats that did have the vaccination lived. However, even the cats that survived, they had to dispose of because it was against regulation to keep them alive. Some people might say that this is okay because it's several hundred cats dying for the well-being of several thousand. But even after the vaccination was proven effective in the tests, it was released to the public and discovered that the vaccination still had many problems. Multitudes of cats, this time people's pets, received the vaccination and shortly after suffered anaphylaxis and died. Do you want your pet to die because of faulty animal experimentation? And lastly, our opponents argue that there are no good alternatives to testing on a living, breathing animal. And they also said that it can produce relevant results because, like chimpanzees, share 99% of our DNA. But if these animals are so similar to us, how is it humane to test on them? English philosopher Jeremy Bentham once wrote, "The question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but rather, can they suffer? Experimenting on animals and refraining from experimenting on humans is unfair. Discriminating against animals because they don't have the intelligence, moral values, or language that we do is no different from discriminating against a human who has a severe mental impairment. Animals can suffer like humans do, so it is wrong and unethical to test on them for our personal gain and treat them differently just because they don't have the abilities to stop us."
They get a time too after their rebuttal.
Our opponent has mentioned that animals are living things and say that they should not be experimented on. Are they suggesting we test on humans? How would you feel if your best friend died from a faulty medication? Huh? Anyways, so first off, our opponent has presented facts and pictures that say and show that animal testing is inhumane, but these could all come from one location. You can't judge something by looking at one source. For example, a doctor from the Cedars-Sinai Medical Research Facility states that our dogs get out to exercise and socialize twice a day with their caretakers and other dogs. We have a toy rotation program. The best thing for dogs in a research setting is actually human interaction. They treat them kindly. Also, our opponent says that there are better alternatives to animal research, but a cell in a petri dish is not a living creature. Like we mentioned earlier, beings and animals are very complex creatures. Conditions such as blindness and high blood pressure cannot be studied in a tissue cell sample in a petri dish. We concede that maybe there are some other alternatives, but they are not as accurate and they are inadequate. They are not what we need today to test these medications.
The last point that our opponents brought up the fact that 97,123 animals suffered pain during experiments. However, that is only 6% of all animals being tested on. According to the Animal Welfare Association, yes, those 6% experienced pain, but 31% are given anesthesia for relief, and 61% feel no pain at all while being tested upon.
Thank you guys. Yep, closing.
In conclusion, animal testing should be banned as a form of experimentation. We need to embrace new, less expensive, and more accurate alternative testing methods that are not, as our opponent has led you to believe, inadequate. Also, anatomic, metabolic, and cellular variations between humans and animals make animals very poor test subjects. These physically straining experiments performed on innocent creatures should not be legal. We need to do something about the horrible things that occur in labs every single day. It is our job as the dominant species to put an end to the suffering and torture that these animals endure.
The viewpoints we have expressed today show that animal research is a humane way to determine the effects of pharmaceuticals and cosmetic products. To start, we have presented evidence that shows that animal research is a humane process for determining the effects. Next, we have presented statistics that show the benefits of animal research. And finally, we have stressed the need for this important research and studies. So, next time you look at your shampoo bottle and see that it has been tested on animals, think of the information you have heard today and don't get the wrong idea.